At 9:40 a.m., we continue with the broadcast this morning. Now, early on, we spoke with Julius Kleinhans from Outa, and a statistic that he mentioned in the last election, he spoke about only 30% of eligible voters that had basically cast their vote. And heading into the 2024 elections, this is going to be about the most crucial elections. We see people complaining over and over again, and the elections that is coming up is going to be about the most important election for that we're going to be experiencing, especially in the last few years, considering where we are as a country, and we just complain all the time. But this is an opportunity for people to make their mark, because can you imagine if the other 50 or 60% voters come through? We could actually change the political dynamics of this country and the direction of this country. And this is the reason why we are talking this morning with Dr. Faisal Suliman, the chairperson of SAMNET, about the re-election and re-registration campaign. Faisal, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As always, welcome for your time, with your time.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, United, and jazakallah so much for the opportunity.
Yes, Faisal, one cannot stress enough ahead of the 2024 elections as to how important, how crucial this election is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. And as you mentioned, clearly, I don't think anybody listening or watching needs to be told about where the country is at the moment, how we've deteriorated over the past 20 odd years. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like a slide that's going to stop on its own, or unfortunately going to stop with the ruling party. And so therefore, we have to make an input. We have to change the political dynamic. There's a lot of talk about coalitions now. People only have to look at the coalitions in Gauteng, in the various municipalities in Gauteng, in some of the smaller towns, in all the provinces, and of course the mess that is going on even in Pretoria, to see, or the Tshwane municipality, Tegweni itself, in Durban, to see that these coalitions seem to be only geared towards extending the gravy train. It's one thing to say, yes, Al Jamaa has the mayor, but we know the only reason we have a mayor there is because the EFF and the ANC haven't worked out how to slice the cake yet. That's the basic real. When they figure out how to slice the cake so that each one gets the biggest slices, then they'll replace the present mayor of Johannesburg with one of their own. And we've seen, even with the DA, who supposedly have this liberal libertarian sort of philosophy, there's been scandals around them. They've also worked in their own self-interest. So can you imagine the mess that will happen when these coalitions are ruling at the level of the cabinet, at the level of government? They just seem to be self-serving. I mean, people talk about ANC EFF coalition. There's moonshot back with the DA. So what it does show, United, is two things. One is, as you've said, we need a 70-80% turnout at the polls to send these politicians a clear message. Secondly, once we're there, we need to have people in smaller parties, because with coalitions, the smaller parties, like Al Jamaa is a classical example now, and others in smaller municipalities, that become kingmakers. And in this election, those 5 and 6 seats in parliament is going to give you a lot of leverage. And this leverage can be used for positive change, not just as Muslims, other than all of the troubles that affect all of South Africans. And I don't have to list them. They will be here the whole day. We all know what they are. There's also legislation coming about in terms of hate speech, so you won't be able to criticize Israel because it will be regarded as anti-Semitism. You won't do, perhaps they want to force legislation for transgenderism in schools. The ability to practice your own religious beliefs, etc. And these make all the more reasons for us to get people in parliament, Muslim or not. Obviously, as South African Muslim Network and a grouping of Muslims who are encouraging people to register to vote for now, we'd like to see more Muslims in parliament, and get into positions where they can influence positive change, both on issues specific to us, but more importantly for the country. Even foreign policy. towards Israel, towards selling of arms and things like that, is going to change. In that respect, the ANC hasn't been too bad in terms of foreign policy, but with ANC being desperate, with Zionist funding a whole host of parties, even that's going to change. So we cannot sit by the sidelines. For now, South African Muslim Network, with UXA, with Amal, with Women's Cultural Group, Islamic Forum, the Islamic Medical Association, and a whole of other groups have come together, together with on a call to say to the South African public, to say to the South African Muslim public in particular, because that is our community, that at the very least for now, register to vote. Just get that done. Do it from the ease of your mobile phone. You don't have to go to any offices, any queues, nothing of the sort. It's really so easy. Recheck if you have registered before and you have voted for. Just double check your details. Make sure everything is in order, and understand that we passed the point where you can say, yes, you can't trust politicians. Yes, we've heard all of those things, and yet they're the ones who are going to make decisions that affect us. They're the ones who are going to decide whether your pothole get fixed, whether load shedding, the mafia that continues to ravage our country, whether it's construction, whether it's what's happening at Eskom or the coal mines continues or not. And therefore, you can't sit by the sidelines and say, okay, Allah commands you to take action, and now we have to, for our self-interest, for our religious interest, the interest of the country, for the interest of our future generations. There are very few people in it who can run away, pack up, and move. The 99% of us are going to be remaining in this country. So let's try and make it better.
Well, Faisal, what you are saying is absolutely important, and this is so crucial because we must be in a slumber or we need to be delusional if we think nothing is playing about. And you mentioned a few things. We know about this whole hate bill at this point in time that is playing out that could have far-reaching consequences for the Muslim Ummah. We know that Amal has been making submissions. We know that UXA is making submissions today as well to the Parliamentary Committee. Now, all these things are actually playing out in the background, and this is actually laying the foundation for the groundwork for a future government that may be ruling. And this is the reason why, apart from the service delivery issues, apart from the economic woes of the country, the corruption, all of that is widely spoken, but there is a lot that is playing out in the background that could impact on us with disastrous consequences if we don't wake up and get out of the state of delusion.
Right, let me give you a very simplistic answer, a simplistic example. Some bureaucrat in the Department of Health decided, without consultation, without anything, to issue a notice that headscarves will no more be allowed for nurses. Now, there are millions of Muslim nurses all over the world, hundreds in South Africa over the past 100 years, nurses who have worn the scarves, whether it's headscarf or something else. Nuns in their habit in the missionary hospitals, in the Vatican, all wear the habit, so a headscarf or some type of the other. Conservative countries where headscarf is still a cultural thing or religious thing. In India, many of the women, the Hindu women, still wear scarves. There's never been an issue of contamination, of sterilization, etc. And now suddenly you have some bureaucrat who they know the IMA. IMA has worked with the Department of Health on immunization, on COVID, we run IMA clinics, and they've visited those clinics. You don't consult and just issue almost like a red notice, no more headscarves allowed. Now, a simple thing like that. Have you had MPs in Parliament? Yes, of course, the IMA has written to the Department of Health, and there's been some publicity around it. But when Muslims are present in Parliament, you can't escape that. They are there, you're seeing them, you're involved with them, they're sitting on the health portfolio committee. When something like this comes up, immediately you can do something about it. You don't have to be scrambling, you don't have to be now saying, okay, let's get hold of the minister, and you can't get hold of him, and this DG is not answering emails and not consulting. You're right there at the coalface. When policy matters come up, whether it's transgender issues, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's security, whether it's targeting Muslims, we'd be naive to think the foreign state agencies are not working with our state agencies to target Muslims, to monitor mosques, to monitor what is being said. Of course, it's happening. To monitor this very channel where Muslims are prominent. Sure, it is. So, but if you're in the security portfolio committees and you're there, you can bring these issues up. And I have to say, we've had one Muslim MP to two or three, of course, Al Jama and Imam Sheikh from the NFP, who have shown you, even though they have one seat, they have been able to raise issues on Palestine, on clearly the Muslim marriage bill, etc. Now imagine we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 Muslim MPs of whatever race, even if they belong in different parties, that are there, and you can access them, and they are making an input at the very levers of legislation, the very levers of power. And yet we, so like you said, you must be delusional if you don't decide, let's just, this very basic thing, let's please do it. That is our call to our community, South Africans in general, all communities. Obviously our South African Muslim Act is targets the Muslim community. To our community in particular, let us register to vote, please. If you're over 18 and you're eligible, please go and register to vote. It is not a difficult process. Even voting is not difficult. When we reach that stage, it's still a while to go before elections, but at least let's get our ducks in a row right now.
Yes, Faisal, I know you and I are here, and you are making this call for people to register over the age of 18. But I think to personalize this call for registration and re-registration as well, we need to obviously get this message out, far and wide at a local level, on a personal level. And we've got platforms. We've got platforms within the communities. We've got even our Juma platform, which can actually be used, and possibly some sort of guidelines, or perhaps some of the issues that we have been talking about, to get people to understand the importance of registration. Perhaps this is something that we need to actually think about, so we get this message out very, very clearly, and just to encourage people to register.
Absolutely. Inayat, you mentioned one of the most important platforms, and these lectures. The month of Rabi al-Awwal, people have so many different programs. It takes 2 minutes within this program, no matter what the theme, or, and of course, in this month, a lot of it will be about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But Juma lectures, these people have different functions, whether it's a talim, whether it's an urus, whether it's just a program in the masjid on Rabi al-Awwal, big night, 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, etc., coming up. 2 minutes to encourage people to vote. So our call is really to the trustees of masajid, to the imams themselves, the people who are lecturing at the different occasions. Please use the opportunity and the Juma lectures, from now until registration closes for voter registration. 2 minutes, at the end of your Juma lecture, by end of your talk or beginning of your talk, just remind the audience, please go register to vote. So that would be the one platform. Second platform would be people who are public speakers. If you're talking about an IMA function, you're talking about an Amal function, even on tax, on wills, or whatever it is, any other school function, 2 minutes. In the assembly, where parents are present, of course, the scholars not so much, but the MSAs, to get it out to their students, to their constituents, everyone who has a constituency or who has a public platform, we really appeal to you, take the 2 or 3 or 5 minutes just to talk about the necessity to register to vote.
Well, Faisal, Jazakallah khairan for that, and for your time. I'm sure you and I will have a lot more to talk about on this particular issue. But for now, we thank you. We say Jazakallah for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And as always, it's a complete pleasure.
Dr. Faisal Suliman with us, the chairperson of the South African Muslim Network, on the re-election re-registration campaign ahead of the 2024 elections. Next up, we'll be joined by Nawaz Ali. Water crisis, day 7 without water, and definitely an outcry and an appeal that has come through to Salam Media from the Robertsham community to provide coverage and to highlight the plight of this community once again.